Welcome back, everybody. So in the last segment, we talked about where I was right, and it did get a little heated talking about the Steelers and the Browns. But let's go on to where I was wrong, and this is where I'm going to be humble, and I'm going to be... Well, the first one I'm not going to be. No, the first one I'm going to be humble, but that's because I said, and I misled all of you, and I'm sorry. I said the Lions were going to go 7-9. Oh, they're not going 7-9 after this. 7-9 after that performance. Ugh. I was watching that game. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I'm like, is this the Detroit Lions or the Cleveland Browns? Or are the Jets just this good? The Lions, to me, last night looked like a 4-12 team. And that's where I thought they were going to be. But I'm like, nah, they can't be there. It's the Lions. They're always in contention and all this. And I know Lions fans didn't like Jim Caldwell. But they should have kept him as the head coach. Matt Patricia, I think, will be okay for you. But right now in Detroit, this is what's going on. It's not pretty. It's not pretty at all. Yeah. Meanwhile, you got Sam Darnold. Jets fans very happy about that. And I was wrong. I said he was probably the worst of the... Not the worst. I said he was probably the third or fourth ranked of the rookie quarterbacks, and it was because of the turnovers. And the first play proved me right. The rest of the game proved me wrong. He played well. He played great. Had 280-some-odd yards, I believe. And I only say I believe because I don't have the stats popped up. But... Man, I was impressed. Very impressed by him. I think he'll be good. I think he will be very good for them. I think he will lead them. Oh, he had a 198. Sorry, I was 100 off. He had 198. Had a 116 quarterback rating. I think they'll be good. I think they'll be better than they were years previous. They have their franchise quarterback. They lead the league in interceptions. And they're first in points per game. Again, I don't think any of that's it's 1 week. I don't think any of that's going to stay. But Sam Darnold was good, and I was impressed overall with what I saw. But let's move on to a team that I have not brought up today. The Falcons' red zone offense. Now, I don't know why you don't put Julio Jones in the game. I don't. That was confusing. Now, Julio Jones had a great game. But why did you not put him in the red zone? He's the biggest receiver on your team, and you're not going to throw him out there. And it's why the Eagles won the game. That's why the Eagles won the game. It's one of those things where it was just frustrating to watch because I was rooting for the Falcons. I'm like, oh, this team, they were my pick. They're my pick to go 13-3 and this, that, and the other, and they're going to be good. And they stink it up by having the same problems as the 2017 Falcons did, which was red zone issues. And now that they lost Deion Jones, who in my opinion is the best middle linebacker in that division, and Keanu Neal, one of the best safeties on their team, they're out of playoff contention for me right now. And until they can get right, until offensively they can be awesome, because that's what they're going to have to be, is they're going to have to score a lot of points a game now without those two big players for that team. Until I see it, they're not a playoff team. And it's kind of just frustrating for me because I told you all they were going to go 13-3. They were going to be the number one seed. and they didn't show it, and it was just kind of frustrating overall. Next thing I was wrong about, Tampa Bay. I didn't say it last week, but I have been saying in my life, my public life, that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were going to be a dumpster fire. After 1 week, I can tell you, I was wrong. They're not going to be a dumpster fire. Ryan Fitzpatrick played really well. He surprised me and fantasy owners, except for his kid who played him in fantasy apparently, which was interesting. But they played well, and Deshaun Jackson proved what he was. He had a down year last year, and I think the rapport between him and Fitzpatrick has improved. I think the rapport between him and Evans and Fitzpatrick has improved as well. And at this point, I'm saying to myself, why don't you just release Jameis Winston? You don't need him. Ryan Fitzpatrick's your guy. And it's just one of those things. You have to, and the defense looked good. The pass rush looked better. You don't have your first round pick in Vita Vea out there yet. And, I'm kind of intrigued to see where Tampa was going to go. I think this is the team that we were expecting last year, but they're playing a last place schedule, and they're going to be better. And right now they took it to the Saints. I'd be impressed to see what they do later, and if they play well, they'll be a good team. And my last spot where I was wrong, I do 5 of these a week, so I'll be doing 5 when I was right a week, 5 when I was wrong every week. Next week's week 2. We've got to see how the games pan out. But the 5th one, Cowboys are the worst team in the NFC East. As of right now, that's undisputable. And you would think, based off of the way I talked about the Cowboys and Dak Prescott in earlier in the last segment, I predicted they'd be the second place team in their division. Now, why did I say that? Because I said the Giants and the Redskins were going to be worse than the Cowboys. Based on what I saw from Based on what I saw from Washington, they're better than the Cowboys. Based on what I saw from the Giants, they're better than the Cowboys. And we'll see if the Giants are better than the Cowboys this week when they face off. But the Cowboys right now are the worst team in the NFC East, and for once it's not because of their defense. That offensive line looked abysmal. The defensive line looked good. The secondary did not look great. But the fact of the matter was, Sean Lee... Okay, I don't want to hear anyone say Sean Lee is compared to Luke Kuechly ever again. And my brother knows I'm not the biggest Luke Kuechly fan because of his fandom. That's why, and how much he raves about him. But we're not going to go there. I never want to hear that Sean Lee is better or equal to Luke Kuechly ever again. And Shannon Sharp on Undisputed said this. I didn't know Sean Lee was a doctor because he put on a clinic of missing tackles. And this is what I say about Sean Lee. You got people on other networks that say, Skip Bayless in particular, that Sean Lee's the best defensive player in the NFL. What? He's probably the best for the Cowboys. But, and this may make sense, it may not make sense. But Sean Lee is the worst, best defensive player for their team. In the league, actually, not for their team, in the league. So what I mean by that is, he may be the best defensive player for his team, but if you were to line all of those players up from all 32 teams, he'd be number 32. I would take Vontaze Burfict over him I would take Luke Kuechly over him. I would take Bobby Wagner over him. I would take Deion Jones over him. I would take all of these other players over Sean Lee. Casey Hayward, who's probably not the best, it's Joey Bosa. Aaron Donald. Khalil Mack. Clay Matthews. Maybe now it's Mike Daniels. Give me a player that's worse than... Give me a player that's the best defensive star on their team that's better than Sean Lee. I'll wait. There isn't one. The Browns have a better best defensive player in Myles Garrett. That's a low bar to clear. And the Cowboys can't seem to do it, and the guy plays 6 games a year. So, yeah, you bet the Cowboys are the worst team in the NFC East. They won't finish better than 5 wins. Not based off what I saw. With Dak fumbling footballs and everyone missing tackles on that defense, it's not happening. I can't wait to see how this game ends up in Dallas versus the Giants, because it'll tell a lot about both of these teams. That's it for my where I was right, or wrong, wow, where I was wrong segment. In the next segment, we're going to get into my Week 2 preview and picks. And we'll go through that, and we'll look and see what games are going to happen, how it's going to roll. And I'm excited to give you my picks, actually. So, stay tuned.